I'm Crystal Moore, the Doctor from Doctor Who Velocity. And you are listening to Mark Who 42.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to MarkWHO42’s universe. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten, and with me is
Drinking Juan in Orlando.
Juan in Orlando drinking. You know, it is time to drink right now. I think it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's Gatorade.
Oh, you disappoint me, Juan. This episode is going to be all about MegaCon Orlando 2025, which happened the other weekend. But bringing on with us, we have a friend of Juan's. Your name, sir?
I'm Sean Forster. I'm a friend of Juan's, and boy, I have heard one side of this show over the course of how long has it been going now? I've lost track.
Well, I came back on it in April or after April. So,
Okay, so nearly a year. I've heard
Yeah.
Juan would there be silence, and then I've heard Juan dominate most of the talking over this past year or so.
I've
Oh,
let
I hope
him,
not.
No, because I haven't done every episode, so Juan was leading him. So yeah. But Sean, what kind of stuff do you do in terms of
I am
presence?
slightly off topic for the content of the show, but I am a college football YouTuber. But I like to define myself as a nerd jock hybrid. So when football is, as it's just recently ended, there's no football right now. I put my focus onto my nerd geekdoms, which mainly I'm an anime nerd overall. That's my big one. Also, big into Star Trek, above average casual Star Wars fan, and various other, the usual suspects when it comes to classic films over the years. So I can hold my own. I can hold my own when it comes to punching weight on a place like
Good.
this. So I've
And
got opinions. I got opinions on the internet.
And it's funny because I was about to ask you for your geek creds, but you kind of just gave them. That's cool.
There you go.
All right, welcome to the show. Before we do, we're going to do our MegaCon review in a few moments, but I wanted to bring up some news that came out straight out of Gallifrey this weekend, because we're recording on Gallifrey 1, that Christopher Eccleston and Billy Piper are going back together to do Big Finish audios. They've done them separately, but now they're going to do episodes that take place during season 1 of the new show, which started almost 20 years ago. We're getting close to that. They're going to record 12 stories, and it's going to alternate with the 12 stories that Yaz and that Amanda Gill and Jodie Whittaker are doing. So you've got 2 years of Ninth Doctor and 13th Doctor going back and forth. And I'm excited about that. I think it is. Juan, you were telling me a little about Captain America. Tell me what's going on, because that
I just saw Captain America and Captain America Brave New World. I think it's the thing is, I've heard an NPR criticism, and I respect their opinions. As a Marvel fan, both of the comics and the film series and the TV series, I think I get a little bit more enjoyment than maybe the average audience viewer. I think it's a decent thing to watch. It's not a waste of your time. If you're not as passionate about Marvel, maybe wait a little bit later till it comes in the cheaper theaters, if they still exist. Or
they do, actually. They do.
They just closed the one down here in Orlando, so that's why I said that. And it wasn't even in Orlando; it was in Altamont Springs. But that's neither here nor there.
That's
so
pretty much
I
Orlando.
think it was an okay action adventure film. I think we got decent performances out of it. I could understand a few quibbles, but nothing. I mean, we could do a whole show on this, and I think that could be our next
I think
topic.
we will. I think we will. Question: how does Harrison Ford fit into the new version of Thunderbolt Ross?
Harrison can't. I don't think Harrison. I remember hearing one time that one of the reasons Edward G. Robinson never got an Oscar is because he never did a bad performance. I think Harrison Ford has never gotten an Oscar because he's never done a bad performance, and I think he's doing it. Somebody said that the NPR review felt that they were surprised he didn't phone it in as much as they thought he would, and I don't think he phoned it in. I think We got a decent performance. We're
Mhm.
the character of the thing that motivates Thunderbolt Ross is his legacy,
Mhm.
and because if he can't pull off what he's trying to pull off in the movie, which is a big international treaty, he has no legacy, and that's his motivator. Again, we can talk about this.
We'll do a review.
And
We're gonna actually do a review of this, guys, a couple of weeks, maybe a month down the road. So stay tuned. Just let everyone know while we're recording, the BAFTAs are about to start, and I know that we're going to be talking about the Oscars next week. Is that right, Juan?
yeah, that's right now. Unfortunately, I was only able to get one other person to do the Oscars, which is Kim, who was on our show for The Substance, and I know she's seen at least more. She's seen. I think she's only missing 2 films. I could be wrong about that. For Oscar contention, at least for Best Picture. So, and I've already got a game plan on how we're going to address the Oscars, and I have
All
seen
right.
all the best. I have seen all the Best Pictures. I have seen most of the Oscars that have gotten more than 2 nominations. There are 2 films I believe that I still need to see where they've gotten more than 2 nominations. So we'll check those out. There's right now streaming. So I
Mhm.
think we'll have an interesting discussion on the Oscars. And today I will be seeing both live action short form at the Enzion, which is our local independent theater of note, and also best animated, which I'll be seeing with friends, and it's always more fun to see with friends.
All
Yesterday
right.
we just saw Cabaret as a play, as a
Mhm.
musical at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
at the Shakespeare Center.
All right. And since we're talking about future shows, in the middle, near the end of March, we're going to have a very special show celebrating the 20th anniversary of New Who, where we're going to have a roundtable forum about our favorite moments in New Who. Not the best or greatest moments, but favorite to ourselves, our personal favorites. Stay tuned for that. But also stay tuned because we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk all about MegaCon Orlando 2025. See you right after the break here on MarkWHO42.
Don't go away. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this.
Get ready for the ultimate geek experience right here in the Sunshine State. Florida Geek Scene presents a full calendar of events and conventions. From anime to horror, we've got it all. Meet your favorite stars, find rare collectibles, and immerse yourself in your passions. Experience the thrill of cosplay and witness amazing live performances. Stay up to date with the latest news and reviews all across Florida. Florida Geek Scene, where pop culture happens. Visit us online for more. Don't miss out on the fun. Join us at Florida Geek Scene, floridageekscene.com.
Hello, geeks and geekettes. I'm Steve Megatron, and if you're looking for a podcast that covers a vast array of geeky topics, then check out Altered Geek. Altered Geek covers superheroes, Star Trek, pop culture, comics, film, television, animation, gaming, tech, and more. So check out Altered Geek and get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks every Friday on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, Blog Talk Radio, and the Geekcast Radio Network.
You are listening to MarkWHO42’s Universe.
Welcome back to more of MarkWHO42’s Universe. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. With me today are Juan Sanmiguel and our special guest, Sean Forster. All right, we are here to talk MegaCon Orlando 2025, which happened from February 6th through 9th in Orlando, near you, Juan.
Well, it's still it's about a 20 to 30-minute drive for me, so it's a
Well, from what I understand, when you're in Orlando, you're about an hour drive from Orlando anywhere you go. Sean is shaking his head yes.
Yes.
So 20 minutes is not bad.
This is not a walkable city, so to
No.
speak, or public transit friendly at all. So we have the Sunrail, if you've all heard of that thing that nobody likes TS. But regardless, it's you need a car to live here, and God help you. I hope y'all like chain restaurants too. Chain restaurants are great.
Yeah. Okay, so going into the MegaCon, now I know before we get to MegaCon, you had to get to MegaCon,
Mm-hmm.
and we were taking the Uber and the ride and share and everything. Now, they had basically blocked off everything to, I guess, to avoid a New Orleans type situation. That's what the security had told us. So it was like, to get in the place, you had to walk quarter mile. I mean, it was a long walk
You
to
you
get.
at that convention center, whichever facility you're going to do a little bit of walking.
Yeah.
If you at the section the Orange County Convention Center,
Mhm.
and if you think this is too boring, you can cut it. The Orange
Oh,
County
now we're keeping
Convention.
it in. Now we're keeping it in because you said that. Go ahead.
No, because you've got the west and the east end. It was on the
Yeah.
east end,
Hmm.
and the parking is a little bit closer because on the west end you have to go through a long tunnel to get to where
Yeah.
the stuff is. Whereas in this one, it's actually a little bit closer. Uh, although the thing is, I guess the numbers they decided to block off. You have to prepay
Yeah.
for parking. And now I know that I've done another event for work at that convention center where I got charged $21 to park
Hmm.
there. And I
That
think,
cheap, huh?
yeah, that's no, and Kent, I think Kent Ward, who's a mutual acquaintance of ours, who's actually doing an event today with video game music to raise money for the LA fires, mentioned that yeah, I think that was also cheaper than what a convention that has moved into the convention center, Holiday Matsuri, was a little bit cheaper than that. That's a convention, anime, a cosplaying convention, which happens around just before Christmas. Uh, yeah, I mean, parking isn't cheap. I actually parked. I did find some free parking, but it was about a mile walk or $2 on the
Mhm.
bus to get there.
Gotcha.
Although we did use subsidized parking, but apparently, uh, we were I talked to the people because supposedly this parking lot was going to be $20 a day, and it was 20 and change. And it goes, hey, they said it was 20. It was $20. Goes, yeah, they got that wrong. And I was like, oh, okay.
No.
I took it because I was already there, so there was no point in leaving, and it
Yeah.
wasn't that bad. I think it was like
Yeah.
29 instead of 20.
All right. Well, I mean, parking, you have to do that. It's probably everywhere a big convention is that. I wanted to say something I probably should have said at the top. I'd like to thank FanExpo for getting myself and Juan press passes to cover MegaCon. We appreciate your what's the word I'm looking for? Your niceties for giving us
I
tickets.
will
We
say
appreciate
this:
it.
the press room, which I got to go to, was very nice. It was a very quiet room, and everybody was respecting everybody's work. I mean, because if you
Hmm.
saw somebody typing and bothering, but there were a couple of times I talked to them and see what was going on with the other press sources, and also the room actually had one of these big like windows where you could look at the dealer's room.
Yeah.
And I think one of the pictures I put up on the Facebook was from that
Okay.
room. Was that I tried to get a close up because somebody had a mock up of the probe droid from Empire Strikes Back walking around, but I couldn't get a close up of it in the sea of human bodies. It was Saturday at the con.
Okay. All right. Now, Sean, what were your when you walked in, what were your first thoughts when you saw the dealer room going in
Well,
there?
first things first, I need to thank Juan for because he got his press badge. He had
Oh,
already
so you were the gentleman who
I
got
I was
uh
the recipient of
you were
this,
the
and
recipients. Okay.
Juan was very he's trying to figure out like the best way to get it to me, and he eventually figured out that I could just, as long as I had the code or whatever, I could walk
Yeah.
in and get
Well,
it. So
part of the problem was I made a mistake. It turns out that for some reason,
I
after I paid for the ticket, the code, the QR code that they said went into my junk mail folder. I asked them to
Ooh.
resend it to me, and when I didn't see it, I go, "Is it in the junk mail folder?" And
son of a gun.
there it was. That didn't
Happens
occur
all
to
the
me.
time.
Happens all the
But
time.
thankfully I was the benefit of Juan dropping me off near the front, so my
Hmm.
walk was not that long. And plus, you know, that's how Juan thanks me for my service, by giving a veteran like me the shorter
Well, that's
distance to
nice.
walk. But you still got to walk all the way around
I
that place, and
with my walking and stuff, I had to end up, I can walk in with a cane, but sometimes I long distance, I needed some other way. So I joked that I needed a scooter to get to the scooters because that's a long ass walk.
Well, yeah, that place is a bit of a hangar. It's like
Yeah.
it's a dam's okay on this thing, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
all right.
yeah, it is. But can I say, I'm I understand why they did it. There was something at Mardi Gras right before. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
You got to
So
be careful.
Yeah, but it's been like that for the last couple of years. I mean, the
I
setup
don't
if
think it
they
was.
use
Well, was it this bad?
to me it's the same. I mean, at least if you
Oh.
use the west,
No.
if you use the east side of the convention center, I think you have to go in that way where they have it open and then you
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
to and also, I mean, I think it's the only convention I go to which is search. I know that AFO doesn't do any searches. I'm not sure about. I didn't go to Holiday Matsuri for the last 2 years, so I don't know if they search your
Yeah.
bags there too.
Well.
So
And that's another thing. If they're so worried, there should have been more security. Because I know, I don't really. I should be saying this. It seemed that when we walked through the metal detectors, just went through the metal detectors and nothing happened. And
Pretty much.
I know they had the weapons checked, but I saw people not doing that. I saw people carrying in bags that they sometimes didn't.
I got searched
I
every
would.
time. I always came with
Okay.
my backpack, and I got searched every time.
Okay.
And
Well,
it
you
was
are a suspicious
well done.
person.
You are suspicious, one. You're suspicious, very. But what I'm saying is, at MegaCon at FanExpo, security maybe a little tighter. I don't know, because
It
I'm
feels
riding my scooter through the thing and nothing beeps, and you'd think the metal on the thing would have caused something. Just go through.
it feels a little performative, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it was a little, yeah.
But for me, it's like, whenever you get one of these things, you got to like not only it's like you don't just have your badge. You got to go and through the app and activate it, and
Did you have a hard time activating it? To me, it was
not
a bit of a
really.
challenge.
I
The
mean,
first couple of
you got to
years.
give your name, address, social security number.
Yeah. Oh, you had to give your social
Are
security.
you being serious about the social?
No.
I had to copy my DD-214 to show that I was actually a veteran. Blood sample, urine sample, all those things.
Yes.
But once you actually get your badge activated, then you can actually enjoy the convention.
Yeah.
You are
Yeah.
allowed to have fun at MegaCon.
And it was fun. It was so much fun.
So
And so much hard work.
Yes. You asked my thinking about what my reactions to the dealers are.
Yeah, yeah.
As someone who's been to MegaCon on and off since like 1998, honestly,
Same.
it feels the same. Obviously it's updated whatever's the current popular thing going on, but the one
Right.
thing I do appreciate that they've done, it seems recently,
Okay.
I like how they've divided up, how they've segregated fandoms. Like all the
Yes.
anime stuff is over here, the classic comic stuff is here, the modern comic stuff is here, and then there's like a mix of everything else. So if you're a guy like me, I was like looking for, okay, if I'm gonna buy anything here, I'm gonna find the guy. I'm looking for some out of print DVDs or Blu-rays. That's what
Okay.
I'm looking for. And I eventually Friday night found the one dealer who had some.
Wait a minute. I was looking. Oh, I
There
missed
was
that
one
booth. I
dealer
missed
who
that
actually
booth.
had. Yes, there was one dealer who had a big. It was the Anime Depot. They're based out of Texas, and I was able to find about 4 or 5 items that were overpriced, but they weren't eBay overpriced. So in a way, I got a deal. So I found some things I was looking for, mostly discotheque releases that are out of print. So from that aspect, but the dealer's room to me, it's like, okay, there's your typical stuff that you see all the time.
I went to. Go ahead, Juan.
No, just a quick backup on what Sean was saying. I don't think I could be wrong about this. I don't think last year they separated stuff by. I don't think they separated the anime stuff from everywhere.
did-
Well,
Well,
they
they
had
did
the
this year.
flag. They had the flag coming from the ceiling. It's
Yeah.
an anime this time.
No, but I didn't know. I noticed that when I looked at the map that okay, they put all the anime in one section, and I think that's the only real separate. And on the only thing I noticed was on the outskirts they had the comic book creators, and because I tried to find Jerry Conway, who I think canceled at the last minute because I couldn't
Oh.
find him. I couldn't find him on the website like I used to, and we'll get to him later.
Well,
Right.
if you looked at the dealer's room map, they showed you anime, classic
Yeah.
comics, modern comics. That was kind of the big like separation, so to speak. So
Sean, you had mentioned. So yeah, the videos, the DVDs. I remember, and you all guys also mentioned MegaCon back in the day. I remember went to MegaCon. It must have been what 99 or something. No. When did Titanic come out? Do you remember?
December of
97.
Okay,
Christmas
so
97.
Yes.
so we were there 98, and my friend bought his wife a bootleg Titanic double VHS.
Now the thing is, I think those early MegaCons before before the 2000s, before they went to the convention center,
Hmm.
were actually in downtown Orlando. I forget what that place is called. Maybe Sean remembers it.
I don't remember what it's called.
I know where I know what you're talking about.
And I don't think the place exists anymore. It was kind of like an
it was a
expo center.
well, yeah, they used to host FX used to be in that building too back in the day.
Yeah, so it used to be
Um,
near downtown Orlando, and where the convention center.
I do actually remember at one point going to it was either MegaCon or FX, and like we were excited to go. We initially went to that building, but it wasn't there. Then we realized, oh wait, it's at the Orange County Convention Center. So we just like got in the car and went down there, and we
Yeah.
eventually
Yeah, because
made
the
it.
Orange
So
for local people who don't know the Orlando geography, you got downtown Orlando, and where the convention center is about 10 or 20 miles if you go by the expressway. It's actually near SeaWorld, so it's a little bit closer to the
Mm.
parks.
well, that's
SeaWorld
South
is the
Orlando.
closest park,
Yeah.
and it's on I Drive, which is also a big touristy area with some touristy stuff there.
I
mean-
Drive, where we have two themed upside down building
Right.
turtles.
God, no. Uh,
And actually, I had to walk past both of them where I parked. So, or actually, it was bad. The bus trip to MegaCon was okay. Back, I don't know if somebody told me that Universal Boulevard was caught out, so there was a big traffic jam going north on I Drive.
Hell, there's a traffic jam just getting into I Drive on Friday. It was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh God,
Yeah.
this is gonna be a nightmare.
yeah.
So
No, what I'm going to say is that you're talking about the moving, that it moves. I was talking to one of the drivers that I was on a van with there. I don't remember his name, but I know his code number was 616, which I thought was a great number. Marvel. So he told us that next year that it's not going to be in the North-South building. It's going to be in the West Convention Center West.
It's been in the West building a few times, and the thing is, they'll still use the parking on the
Yeah.
other side if
Oh,
there's
right.
nothing going on, and then they'll bus you over to the West side
Yeah.
building.
But that's what they're saying. They're saying next year MegaCon is going to be in the West building.
I think it
So
was
that there's
West.
not a lot of up and down everywhere. It's
I
one
think it was in
building.
the West Side building because last year I decided to park south of the 528 park and then ride my bicycle in. And the thing is, there are no on the West building there is no bike places to chain your bike that are obvious design. So I have to
Yeah.
chain it to a light pole or chain it to a fence and hope for the best.
For those who are still listening, and I hope you're still there, let's get off the logistics. Let's get off the logistics and get to the fun. Sean, what did you do on that Friday you were there? What did you do?
well, I took my quick little dip into the dealers just to get an idea of what was
Of
there,
course.
and I didn't see the aforementioned DVD dealer at first. I caught him back after the fact, thankfully. I knew I was gonna, being the anime guy, I was like, all right, I'm gonna spend most of my time with the anime programming.
Oh,
So because it's usually all in one area. It was in the north side of the concourse with the panels and
Mhm.
everything. So I was like, all right, that's because all due respect to our to the many guests that MegaCon gets every year. I'm not a big guest person at
Mhm.
this point anymore because it's just been there, done that, got the T-shirt type of thing over the years.
Yeah.
There has to be something. There has to be someone very, very special for me to go, oh, I got to go see that person.
Actually,
Yeah.
So, so going to the anime stuff, I was like, okay, like what's the panel stuff going on? Because I like to see what kind of panels are there. Because, my thoughts on MegaCon when it comes to anime panel programming is that, all due respect to MegaCon, anime at times does get treated like the redheaded stepchild of the convention, and it's just the way it's been. Like I went 2 years prior, and there was I went on a Sunday just to catch some stuff because my childhood best friend was doing like some cosplay photos. I wanted to say hi to him, and I got to see things there. But one of the problems that they run into is that they'll have they had a couple of prominent voice actors from the Demon Slayer anime for the English dub,
Ooh,
and
okay.
that was the big anime panel of the day on Sunday. The problem they ran into, they were doing an autograph signing like on the opposite side of the convention. So I'm sure you could imagine the problem it would be for them to go
Yeah.
from one side, even
Yeah.
though if they get escorted, by staff or whatever and take the shortcuts, they didn't get to their panel on time. The room was full, and not only was the room full, about 100 people were turned away. So I don't know how you fix that because obviously MegaCon has some pretty big Hollywood guests on a regular basis.
Yeah. Sean,
Well, wait,
So
Sean, hold on. Sean, I know how you feel. You're talking about from one side to the other because I used to host panels back in 2015 to 2017 at MegaCon, and I don't know which building it was in, but I do know that it was like we were in one section and we had two panels like 30 minutes apart. We were late. We
yeah,
were so late. It is
so
incredible hard it is how long it takes to get from one end. It's a big convention. It's like the biggest convention in Florida, isn't it, MegaCon?
yeah, and so I think one thing they kind of fixed recently because a lot of the anime autograph lines were in on that second story level with where the
Yeah,
anime panels were. So this voice actor was here, this voice actor was
right.
here, and so forth. It's like, okay, I think they may have like fixed that. So they're not all the because all the autograph people were all in one area by themselves, regardless of what fandom they belong to. But I like checking out fan panels.
Hmm.
I went to a Sailor Moon panel by a couple where most of the panels I saw the presentation or the presenters were in cosplay,
Hmm.
which more times than not is tends to be a bad sign for me. That's like a red flag. Oh, they're in cosplay. I don't like it's just years of going to conventions and experience. Oh, if they're in cosplay, this is
Yeah.
that's red flag number one. But
I will.
it was a nice couple. I just want to say they were a nice couple. They gave a nice presentation. It was just two people who love the old school Sailor Moon stuff. And as whenever I'm go to a panel and they take questions, they say get those new Sailor Moon Blu-rays that Viz
Yeah.
put out because they're actually the really good ones and it's the best release it's ever had.
Oh, wait a minute.
Uh,
Was Sean the Sailor Moon recently just got re-released on Blu-ray?
the ones by Viz over the past year or two. What Viz has not told anybody this because they, for whatever reason, don't want to advertise. They put Sailor Moon on Blu-ray about in these little special edition sets, about 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Right.
It was an in-house restoration, and unfortunately, depending on who you get to do that, that can go so many different ways. And it was not a good in-house restoration. The colors were oversaturated.
Right.
It just didn't look good. So what happened was like they were like season one, part one, and part two, and I could go on a rant about season
Yeah.
one, part one releases all day on this thing. But they decided to, re-release them in like season one, Sailor Moon R, Sailor Moon S, Super S, and then Stars. So you have all five like seasons, really nice like sets, and they just put out the three movie collection as well. What they didn't tell people was is that these new sets are the actual Japanese proper restoration that they got.
Ah.
And so nobody knew this until someone on Twitter about a year and a half ago said, I just got the new Sailor Moon like re-release and this is not the one they put out. It actually looks good. It looks properly cleaned up. Like if I was Viz, I'd be like, "Oh, you bought Sailor Moon before, but get the pro." I would be advertising the hell out of this. So anytime I
Yeah.
go to a Sailor Moon gathering, I tell these people, I did a panel at AFO last year about anime and physical media. I was like, buy these sets. These are worth your money.
Yeah.
Now, the only downside, if you're a classic, dub fan of Sailor Moon, those don't exist anymore. Like if I swear, if someone got the rights to those old dubbed Beak episodes,
Right.
they would make it. They put out a special box set of just those and make a fortune. Like they did that for Dragon Ball Z a few years back, the Rock the Dragon set, and that thing
Hmm.
sold like hotcakes because people love the old cheesy edited chopped. Even though, but because they liked it now again because it wasn't the only option. Like because before people hated it because it was the only option, but now you
Hmm.
have choices with watching your anime. But
Yeah.
um
Can I just say this is the first time Sailor Moon's ever been brought up and talked in depth
Well,
on
the reason
Mark 42, and I just want to congratulate you, Sean, for bringing us a whole new
Well, I
audience. Thank
talked
you.
about a panel I attended, and
Yes, yes.
Well,
I
no, the reason I brought it up, and I'm wondering because, and this can lead into another panel that Sean and I went to, is
Mhm.
that Sailor Moon, the classic '90s show, is being rerun in its dub on Toonami.
Oh.
It's actually the last thing right now that's closing Toonami. It originally played on Toonami Rewind, which was a Friday block of anime programming, which unfortunately petered out at the end of last year. So that's why I was wondering. I'm wondering if the reason that they got the classic Sailor Moon is because they're releasing a new Blu-ray. Maybe this is in their way. This is to help
well,
promote it.
well, I mean, if it's the classic Deke dub, then
No,
no,
it's
it's
not the
not.
Deke dub.
Oh,
They're
it's
using the Japanese names.
okay, so it's the modern Viz dub that they redid.
Yeah.
So because you have to redub it if you're going to re-release it properly. So I know some people have thoughts about that. It's like there's no getting around it. They had to recast because you can't get all those people back, unfortunately, for those roles. Um, it's but yeah, it's a really nice release, and it's proudly on my shelf. And because
Mhm.
it's like I'm very jealous of Sailor Moon's fans because they actually have a universal release that's not total garbage, unlike Dragon Ball Z, which is to this day plagued by awful home video releases. And I envy you, Sailor Moon fans. I really do. You have a proper release on high def, and I don't for your brother show on back in the day. But yeah, it was a very simple panel. Just a couple of fans who wanted to share their love of the show, and they asked they asked fans what their first introduction to Sailor Moon was, and I said, "Oh, I have to answer this question." I randomly saw an episode where they were being chased by an airplane on the tarmac, and it was like a slow chase. And I'm like, "This is
Mhm.
the funniest thing I've ever seen. I got to watch more." And it's like I've never heard anybody say they were introduced to Sailor Moon like that. It's like it's one of the greatest moments ever.
I need
Chased
to
by airplanes
interrupt.
on the tarmac.
I need to interrupt. I told Juan I'd be doing this. Special visual effects, Dune Part 2 just won the BAFTA.
Okay,
Just
that's
wanted to put that
interesting.
out there. Just want to put that out there.
I'm pretty sure Dune 2 is also up for the Oscar for best visual effects.
I think this is why I brought it up. I wanted to do it because I've noticed a lot of the times that the BAFTAs directly lead into what the Oscars are going to go.
Yeah, but
Sometimes there's a tweak and it's wrong, but usually it's kind of close.
maybe close, but remember the Academy, and I'll be discussing this. The Academy has its own way. The Academy is exclusively people who work on American films. So I don't know
Mm,
what the overlap is of their membership
okay.
and the British people who vote on the BAFTAs. God bless them, and I'm saying that sincerely. So yes, and Dune is up for best visual effects. Is that important to things to come? Well, yeah. I mean, it's if we're going on this tangent, it's going up against Alien Romulus, The Better Man,
Right.
which is essentially the movie about
I saw, yeah, yeah.
it's about a guy. It's about the biography of a popular singer whose name is escaping me, but except his face is replaced by an ape's.
Yes.
And
All right.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and Wicked. So you've got
And
that
they were
going.
up, yeah, they were there. Okay, so we're
Back
talking
to
about
MegaCon.
back to MegaCon. Let's talk about panels because Sean, you were talking about
I have
panels.
another panel I'd love to
Go
talk
for it. Please talk about it.
There is a local group here in Central Florida that I see at various, especially at AFO. They did a Godzilla panel. It was called "What's a King?" It's called "What's a
Oh,
King to a God? The Philosophy of Godzilla."
was it the
Um,
old school Godzilla or the new Godzilla versus? Because I'm
it
not
was
a big fan.
was a little bit of everything.
Okay, okay.
His name is Gojiro, damn it.
Go Hero.
No, it's Godzilla.
Go Hero.
Anyway, so they go by the Eastu crew, and the main gentleman who tends to run the panel, he is I believe he's a middle school teacher, and
Huh.
he has a certain panel delivery style.
Right.
Has pretty good has a pretty good PowerPoint presentation, and he's the type who likes to walk up and down the hall and not use the microphone because you know he's a middle school teacher, so that's probably what he does at school, so it makes sense. So uh basically going over the philosophy of Godzilla and how um Godzilla represents different things from different eras. Like there's the the Heisei era and so forth, and the Showa era stuff, and the evolution of the character and how Godzilla back then means, nuclear fallout, or Godzilla now means the environment, or Godzilla that now means this. And so he did about 20, 30 minutes of like a presentation, then opened it up to discussion with people in the crowd, which is always can always be 50-50 depending, but
Mm-hmm.
you tend to have a better batting average at a place like MegaCon, because
Yeah.
the one thing I've learned at MegaCon is that panel rooms tend to always be full no matter what, because you have enough people that either are interested in the topic or just want a place to sit down, and
Exactly.
who
Oh,
knows.
totally.
And
Yeah.
but so you like, just like the more people are there, is like, even if your panel room holds 100 people, you're
Mm-hmm.
probably going to have over 50 at
Yeah.
least, just because of the number of people just walking by and saying, "What's going on over there?" But overall, his group does pretty solid panel work. He does stuff at AFO.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he does unique different topics, so I always tend to attend his stuff. Um, I do wish he would use a microphone, because there were times where it's like, even going up and down, I was like, "What?" But it's just like the nature of the beast. But I do have there is like a bad trend in certain panelists over the years that I've seen at anime conventions that
Yeah.
drives me up a wall. And it's some of there's like, because I attended a few game show panels as well. There was a Trivial Pursuit, and it was dubbed as Anime Trivial Pursuit, which was a
Uh-huh.
pretty well run game for the most part. Um, long story short, he brought a bunch of marker boards and markers for people to use, where you could be in a team or individual. The
Mm-hmm.
problem was, every time a question was asked, like, people got into a long line, and he checked the marker boards one by one. And you can imagine how long that would take. But believe it or not, it actually was fairly, you know, it expedited fairly quick, because he went good, 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 good. So it worked to an extent, but I wish there was a better way to get through that. But
Yeah.
that was a fun game overall. But he did one of the cardinal sins, which another person did, which I'll get to. People are depending on Wi-Fi connections to play
Yes.
YouTube clips. But
Yeah.
unfortunately for him, his wasn't that big an issue, because while the Orange County Convention Center has pretty solid Wi-Fi,
Mm-hmm.
there are moments during the day where it's not so solid,
Yeah.
which I will get to. We might as well skip to the panel that both Juan and I attended, which
Okay.
was I
Uh,
Heart Toonami panel.
mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if you've heard, but Juan likes Toonami. I don't know if you've heard of this.
No,
But
I didn't know. Juan, you
you
like
didn't know.
tsunami?
Juan
People in the
likes
anime
Toonami.
community know I love Toonami
Okay.
because I'll bring it up at appropriate times. Like one time the guy was doing a JoJo panel and I brought up that they were doing
Like,
the 90s JoJo, the one with the guy with
oh.
looks like Bowie was just debuting
Mm-hmm.
on the network.
Well, one time I was doing a panel, and Toonami happened to come up in part of the presentation, and Juan was just such a distraction. I had to have him leave the room, because he was such a big fan. He cheered and yelled, and
I did an arm fist for
you
it.
sat in the front row just to cheer the Toonami segment of my panel. That's why you came. But so I was curious about this panel too, because I wanted to see. All right, let's see how this goes. And Juan is going to disagree with me on this, but number one, uh, he used a lot of clips, which I'm a big fan of. Use video clips in your panels; it helps out a lot.
Yeah, I do that too when I do panels. I like to have a PowerPoint with video and stuff.
But guess where all the videos came from? YouTube.
See, I embed the videos so I don't have to use the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
guess what? So all the videos were
Mm-hmm.
there were embedded links from YouTube. And guess what happened at least 5 times?
Buffer,
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 buffer.
buffer. And
Yeah.
guess what happened at least 4 times? His entire presentation crashed.
Oh my God.
So, and
So I see what the difficulty is. Yeah.
but this is a thing this isn't just a problem that plagues MegaCon. I've seen this at Anime Festival Orlando,
Yeah.
and it happens all across the country, because this is more of a generational thing, because I
Mm-hmm.
think there's people of a certain age range that have grown up in a world where Wi-Fi was always available.
Right.
And they're so used to it being available everywhere that they don't consider, I need to rip video and find a way to embed things for my presentations.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, what if it's on a website I can't rip? there are other ways to get around that. There are tutorials out there for things. If you need to
Yes,
capture
there.
video, there's
Of
ways to.
course, we don't condone that, folks. But still,
Sean,
you
I do want
can
to.
do it.
I lost my I lost my curse word mind. Seeing this because I wanted to, jam an ice pick into my retina and my ears. It was just it drove me insane. But overall, the panel itself is like outside of the opening few minutes where the panelists introduced that this is Toonami and these are the three people mainly responsible. The
Mhm.
entire panel was basically, "Hey guys, remember this show? Woo!" I'm now going to read the IMDb summary of what the show is. Next clip. "Hey
Oh,
guys,
really?
remember this show? Woo!" And it just became that for the rest of the panel.
Right.
So for me, I'm like, all right, that's great, but I didn't really learn anything. One person in the crowd actually asked a question. "Hey, I remember the music for some Toonami those Toonami like little I forget what you call it. Those little bumpers are really cool.
Yeah, yeah, the bumpers.
It's
Yeah.
like, do you know who wrote the music for that?" And the panelists had no idea. Now, I don't expect the panelists to know every single thing that
Right.
happens, but that's kind of a little interesting nugget future you should write down and say, do more research on the music.
Mm-hmm.
And the panel at some point, there were some people in the panel who fell asleep.
Oh,
I'm not going to say
wow.
who, but some people fell asleep.
Some of
Yeah.
us have bad sleep hygiene, and it zoned
Some
out.
some people fell asleep. Some people who were big Toonami fans. I'm not going to say who. I promised I
Wow.
wouldn't. So, and
Some people
maybe
can fall asleep in Battle of Helm's Deep if they didn't have a good night's sleep.
and maybe
Or
people have photographic evidence of this too. But the point of the matter is that I just like it was like I'm sure there like I look at panels like this. I think a lot of people's heart is in the right place, and but unfortunately the preparation sometimes isn't there, and sometimes just the basic tech know-how that people had 10, 15 years ago is just isn't there anymore.
Right.
And I feel like it's just I consider myself to be a Neanderthal. If I can figure out how to rip videos from YouTube and like trim clips in Windows Photos
Mm-hmm.
on Windows 10, you can do it too, kids. So that's why I contacted our panel programmer at AFO and said we need to do a how to do panel. And like I says, like,
well,
I'll do it with you.
you brought up Anime Festival Orlando. One of the things that Sean forgot, I think I forgot if he brought it up is Anime Festival Orlando told us, well, for one thing, there was no Wi-Fi in the old hotel, so that was a problem, and we were told, hey, you're not going to get Wi-Fi, deal with it, and we were well trained, and we downloaded our own clips, so they would be on our laptops.
Do that
Right.
anyway, regardless.
Yeah, no, I could tell. I noted. Yeah, you can't particularly when you have your I think to be honest, with a 5,000 person convention, maybe that's not a problem. But when you got 100,000 people on their phones, you're going to
Mm,
overload both the
yeah.
5G system and the local Wi-Fi
Well, there
system.
was like I said, this is just a MegaCon thing. There was a panel at AFO last year
Right.
that had a good premise. It was like someone did a panel on like a good it was the premise was like something like entertaining or good short anime to watch. Now,
Mm.
when someone says short anime, I'm thinking, oh, you mean like the shorts that are like 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes? No,
They're
they're
talking about the 25, 30, right?
yeah,
They're talking not, yeah.
but no, they were talking about like 13 episode TV series. I'm like,
Well,
with
okay.
that,
Oh,
with
you
that,
mean short as in short amount of
every episode is
episodes.
like 2 minutes or 3 minutes long type of
Okay.
thing, or
All
less
right.
than 10 minutes type of thing. That's what
Okay.
I thought, but that wasn't it. It was like here's an anime that's 13 regular episodes.
Right. It's short season. Got it.
Which is kind of the norm nowadays. I'm like, okay, that's fine too. But
Yeah.
guess what? But what they did was they depended on because I think they stayed at the hotel, so
Hmm.
they were depending on not only the Wi-Fi, but they were going to Crunchyroll on that Wi-Fi to show clips from certain episodes, and they were telling
Hmm.
people running, go to timestamp 701 to show this, and you're trying to run Crunchyroll
Hmm.
on hotel Wi-Fi, and guess what happens?
Yeah.
Buffer, and it's like again, heart was in the right place. They didn't seem like the type of people who were just setting in panel ideas to get a free badge. So that is just something that irks me to no end, who's done panels for many years,
Mhm.
and I, I pray for future fan panels. Like, please, whatever
Yeah.
you do not depend on Wi-Fi, do not depend on YouTube, because even if you get through it once or twice and like, hey, it worked, you're basically asking to fail at some point,
Right.
and it's just you put in all that work, and then everyone there's like
Mhm.
panelists talk to each other. I'll just say that the panelists, the regular panelists know who does what, and we talk, and it's like, oh, geez, because trust me, we all talk behind your backs about how well it would, but trust me, like there are good panelists that are new who did do great stuff. There's a group that did a last year at AFO about figure collecting. Great job, and I told them
Mhm.
straight up. I went and said, you guys did really good. But as for MegaCon, that was a regular thing I saw, and but but Juan, I know you love that panel because you got to cheer too. You cheered your favorite shows like everyone else. Woo!
Well, I just always, I mean, as I said, I follow a Toonami podcast, which was actually put on by somebody who showed up at AFO, Jose Argumero, who's surprised I know that a
Yes,
fellow Hispanic knows how to pronounce his name. Um,
I would hope
and
so.
so, well, yeah, no, but no, I told him, oh, Argumero, and he goes, my God, you know how to pronounce my name? And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, but that's how I got into a podcast called
Oh,
Toonami Faithful,
okay.
which, um, and also which I didn't realize was a promo for the old Toonami. I because I pestered. There's a local person who helps organize the Anime Festival Orlando game
Mhm.
shows called the Countess, and I asked one of her staff members to add, "Hey, we're Toonami Fable. That was on the podcast." He goes, "No, that's an old Toonami promo." So you
Yes,
learn something new every day.
and it would have been great if we would have learned something in that new from that panel, which we didn't.
Well, sadly, I mean, they didn't even. I don't even know if they made it clear that unfortunately the Sony merger with Crunchyroll has made it a challenge for Toonami to get new shows.
Well, I try to educate Juan. Juan, there's other ways to watch anime besides Toonami. There's really good stuff out there you're missing out. If like, but Juan only watches the anime that Toonami tells him to. So
Ah.
Toonami has had JoJo. They had the newer Gundam shows before that got closed off to
yeah,
them.
and you finally had to give in and watch the new Gundam like the another
Yeah.
way because like your precious Toonami didn't tell you to watch it.
No, they couldn't get it. They wanted it, but they couldn't get it
Right, but it
thanks
was
to.
still available for you to watch other places legally and streaming. I'm just saying it's like if anything comes out, it's like Juan's like, is it on Toonami? He's like, I don't know, it's out right now. You can watch it on
Toonami,
Crunchyroll
when
or
it came
something.
back in 2012, had a good streak of getting the best shows that were out there.
Sure, I'm not against that, but like when you say what the popular show is, like Free Ren is like one of the most popular anime in recent years. Like it's a fantasy anime, that's really popular. It's not
Mhm.
on Toonami. Like, and Juan won't watch it unless it's on Toonami.
No, it makes it easier to watch it when it's on Toonami.
You know it doesn't. You can stream it on Crunchyroll.
And I do
This,
break down
I
because
know I know
I
how you watch your Toonami shows, by the way. It does not make it easier. I know the way you do it. I've seen it. I know how you download it from your DVR thing and watch it that way.
right.
Okay.
I DVR it because I used to go out at night before COVID.
Anyway.
Anyway,
All
oh,
right.
just
To
one.
get back. Okay, go ahead.
Oh no, just one more. So how many panels did you do on Friday? I'm just curious.
Um the one after time, I think there was like a couple of Name That Tunes that I partook in. And then I think that was it for the most part. I was gonna potentially do the One Piece trivia, but that was so low. By the way, One Piece has exploded in popularity since
Because of the Netflix live action.
yeah,
I love that. That was it.
exactly.
I never liked the anime. I saw, but I'm
See,
all for the new
oh
one.
yeah, well, yeah, you're talking to a guy who got heavy into One Piece like in 2004.
Well,
So,
you'd have to, yeah, I don't
And you're
think you
talking
got it.
somebody who's right now watching the Dressrosa arc.
which again, Juan will ask me questions about characters and why they do things, and it's like, well, you would know that if you actually watched the show proper from the beginning, which he hasn't.
Can we talk about AD police and the gun? and stuff like
Sure.
that.
That's
what I-
almost 40
That's
years
all
old.
I know.
Eight-
But that's
80
what I watch. I
80
watch that.
Police, 80 Police should get a Blu-ray re-release at some point. It's still
That's
on,
well, that
still
sounds
on
like a
DVD.
perfect. Discotech is doing the bubblegum crisis, right?
No,
That
no,
was good. I enjoyed.
no,
See,
and
that was the anime I enjoyed.
well, no, Animego has Bubblegum Crisis,
Okay, Anime.
which by
Okay.
the way, they just put out a brand new release of Bubblegum Crisis on Blu-ray with
Mhm.
a brand new interview with Kenichi Sonoda. So, and there's a new T-shirt available from Animego. They also put Bubblegum Crash on Blu-ray recently,
Always good.
and they also announced some recent licenses because Justin Savakis recently bought Animego. Who he runs a company called Media ODC. He does a lot of Blu-ray authoring, and does work for Discotech as well, and just really nice license gets by Animego. Like the biggest one was they got the rights to the Blackjack OVA uh by that was directed by Osamu Dezaki, and everyone is like I no one is more thrilled than me because I can finally when that gets released I can finally get rid of my DVDs that I don't need anymore. Assuming they can keep the extras from those DVDs, and but if they don't, but Vampire Princess Mia is going to get a Blu-ray, so that's exciting as well. So it's nice to have more than one boutique dealer out there in the ether, just in case, heaven forbid, bad things happen down the road for physical media companies.
Let's step away from anime for a bit and move on. But of course, I have to do my report. BAFTA report, Children and Family Film, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. I kind of believed that was going to win. Outstanding debut, the movie Kneecap, original screenplay, A Real Pain, adaptive screenplay, Conclave. I've only heard of Wallace and Gromit.
I can. I seen Conclave. I'm going to save that for next week.
Okay.
Kim and I have both seen Conclave.
Good.
And we can talk about it.
Definitely, because now it's won a BAFTA, so totally you guys can talk
wait,
about it next
are you
week.
saying that The Real Pain, The Real Pain also won an
Original
Oscar?
screenplay, A Real Pain.
I'm gonna see that this week. I really hated that trailer.
Well, some people in England kind of liked it. Okay.
Well, no, it's up for I know it's up for an acting award. I don't think it's up for. Let me check if it's up for screenplay real quick. Yes, it's up for original screenplay, but it's also going up against Honora, which I liked. I liked that trailer more, and I saw the movie. The Brutalist, September 5th.
Oh, and I actually want to add, because we just have been talking about anime, that animated film was won by Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. That I want to see that it's supposed to be a really great movie. And
it's on Netflix. So, I mean, I saw it 3 weeks ago. And it's a good film.
I actually had access to it on the BBC because they showed it Christmas season, but I never got around to seeing it.
But if you want to save me, but I will bring up, it's going up against The Wild Robot, which I think is a better film. I love Wallace and Gromit.
Okay.
We can talk about it. I don't know if Kim has seen The Wild Robot yet.
All right. So back to panels. Let's talk about on Friday, and Juan, you were in the panel with me. We went to the Legends of Tomorrow panel, right?
Yeah, I had to leave because my contractor called me about my office renovation.
So they had Brandon Ruth, Ray Palmer. They had Katie Lotz, Sarah Lance. And so the panel is going, and then about 5 minutes into it, and the whole time I knew that Arthur Darvill was at the convention. I'm like, okay, he's at the convention. How do they do a Legends of Tomorrow without Rip Hunter? He walked in, and everyone's surprised. But you know what? They had a chair in the back, and I know people who know people at MegaCon, and I'm like, yeah, it was planned.
I don't know if it was planned. I mean, the thing, I could understand why you kind of forget that Arthur was there, because I think Rip only showed up for the first 2 seasons.
First season, yeah, right. But he was still an integral part. The ship was his. The ship they're going in was Rip Hunter's ship.
I mean, one of the things, if we're going to talk about panels, one of the things they talked about the show, is how the show really changed from what it was initially designed to be, and became more of a kind of a comorama, because I don't think they were. I think they were emphasizing the comedy more than the drama, and it works for that show. It worked.
I have to say something with the Arrowverse, or the Berlantiverse, as I call it. You take different shows, like one was a drama, one was this. I always told people when I was telling them to watch Legends, this is the Arrowverse sitcom, because it was.
But I think it only became that in season 2 because I think they
Yeah.
realized
Okay.
that it wasn't working.
But it
Although
worked
I
as a
thought
comedy.
the first season was kind of okay. I think they might have I think they might have been trying to ratchet up to Arrow Grim maybe early on, and
Mm-hmm.
they made a joke about that in their 100th episode because they did a timey-wimey episode where they're jumping in all the eras of the show.
Right.
And
Yes.
and you saw how they made they made meta comments on how different it was. But hey, there's one thing. Hey, did you get to do the Doctor Who panel on Sunday? Because I couldn't go on Sunday
Yes.
because
I was there. And it's funny. Speaking the way I said Arthur Darvill came in that Sunday, I'm sitting in the line for the ADA, and and I'm talking to this nice woman who was just in River Song outfit. We were talking, and I said, I was saying Arthur showed up. Well, we know that Catherine and Matt are in the building. Maybe they're going to show up. They didn't, but it would have been a cool thing. But yes, I was at that panel one. What about it?
no. So my question is, this is something that I notice in all the panels at at MegaCon. They
Mm-hmm.
did not have mics set up for people to ask questions. They claimed that people submitted questions somewhere online.
Yes.
I didn't see that. I mean, maybe I missed it. I wasn't paying attention to it. I noticed it. It was on every panel. I'm wondering why they did that because
They
I
just
don't
had the
think
questions up there.
I I I know that I know my Galaxy Con, which is another firm which runs media conventions across the country.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't do that, and I'm basing this on when I listen one podcast I listen to, Inglorious Treksperts. They actually do work a lot of. They have a relationship with Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Mike Broder?
Yeah, Mike Broder,
Mike.
GalaxyCon,
They
or
have
used to be.
they
Yeah.
actually have Mike on their show, and Mike puts the team who do the Inglorious Treksperts to interview various Trek
Okay.
guests. And the thing is, they record the shows that they do, and they do allow people to come up to the mic and ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, and MegaCon didn't do that last year because I know that last year I went to see Shatner. And if you've ever been to a convention with Shatner, if you haven't been to, I should say, if you haven't been, this is how Shatner does his thing. He's going to tell you
Right.
what he's up to, and he's got a bunch of projects going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll probably answer 3 questions. Each one will probably take 15 minutes to answer. But it's interesting. Shatner is never boring.
No, I agree.
He
Yeah.
knows how to work the audience. He knows how
Yeah.
to keep the audience entertained. And he was promoted. I mean, last year he had just, not only was he at the con, but I think
Kind of his swan song of convention appearances, right? He's kind of like wrapping up, going to cons.
the thing is, he was actually no, he had actually he did the voice of Keldor on Masters of the Universe, which was produced and partly written by Kevin Smith. And Kevin said he was a good guest star. He drove in his own car even though he's in his 90s and did the job. I mean, they you probably are worried about a 90-year-old actor, but he said no, he did the job and he got it done, and he
Well,
Okay.
I just sort of like real quick. I want to ask, like, how long was that panel you both attended? What was the?
well, actually, all of
They
the
were all
panels that we
45
went to were
minutes, and they
45 minutes.
Okay.
And a lot of the panels started late. So they were
Okay,
less than
that's what I
45
wanted to bring
minutes.
up real quick. If it's because
Sure.
to this day, I do not understand how MegaCon has not figured out, considering the space and the time they have allocated, to
Uh-huh.
not insert a simple 15-minute buffer time in between
Yeah.
panels, so that
Well,
panelists.
there were half-hour buffer times between the ones in the big 2 main theaters. There were
But not
half hour
for
to get
but not for
people.
other panels, unfortunately.
Those were 15, I think, but which is still not bad, but
Yeah, but like we live in a world where it's like if for the panels I go to, they did not
Mhm.
have those buffer times.
no.
You have
Okay.
45 minutes, which is kind of insane to me that
Mhm.
because here's what always happens.
Right.
Like of all of the panels I attended on that Friday, only one of them abided by the 45 minutes. Everyone went to the very end. So what happens? The next panelist comes up, they have to get their stuff set up, they have to do tests, and that's going to take 5-10 minutes just to into their time.
Yes, I run into that when I do conventions, and a lot of times I'm there in 15 minutes and they're still going, and they don't clear out till 5 minutes before, and I have to set up the video. it's incredibly impossible.
It's not just a MegaCon problem, but like
No, it's not just MegaCon at all.
Anime
I
Festival
have it
Orlando
every
has
year,
figured out.
everywhere.
Let's give you they figured out half hour buffer times because they have enough
Mhm.
space and time to do that. So I don't know. It's just
Um,
I'm just an attendee. Don't
yeah, Juan, back to what you were saying. So yeah, every panel they just did those pre-questions, except one panel they didn't do that pre-list, the pre-question list. Catherine Tate. Every panel, because I was ended up in at least the third row. Except I think for the legends. So third row. And so we're got perfect shot. I'm right in front of the chair that Catherine's going to be in. Great pictures. It'll work. Catherine did what I call a Sylvester McCoy. She decided, let's go out in the audience and do the show, do question and answers with everybody in the audience, which I loved. It was great, but I didn't. We were like, oh, we'd lost a great shot of her, but she did a great. She's a great personality, Catherine. She was
Oh
able
no,
to interact. It was an amazing, amazing panel.
no, I mean Catherine is a force of nature. I mean, still to this day, my favorite Christmas special is still The Runaway Bride. I
Yeah,
watched it.
she said
I
that was
watched.
the episode that she loved the most. By the way.
I mean, I watched. I loved it when it came out. And I think a few years ago I watched it just think, well, does this still have the magic? And it did. So
Yeah.
I loved her season on the show. I loved how she came back. Because unfortunately a lot of us, I think in the fanish community, felt that Donna's ending could have been a little bit better. And I'm not, that's that could be we could do a whole show on that on itself,
And
I
we
think.
will.
Um,
We
but
will.
I could see. But the thing is, that's interesting that Catherine did a solo panel when she's part of a big
And
cast
everyone else
because
did a 7 people in the same room panel.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean the thing is most of the panels I went to were cast panels because the smallest was 2 people, which was the Superman and Lois panel where we had Tyler and Elizabeth doing our 2 leads doing it. The only solo panel I went to was Carla Gugino,
hmm
and I forget, and I'm a big fan of hers, and I feel bad if I'm butchering her name, but um, she did a
Hank
solo panel.
Azaria. Hank Azaria was on his own.
Oh, really? Okay, I
Yeah, it was
forgot
an
about
amazing, amazing.
Hank. And to be honest, Hank might be the only one, unless he's retired. I haven't. I feel bad. I haven't watched a show in a while. I don't. Because a lot of the big thing about MegaCon I noticed this year, I don't
hmm
think he had a lot of people on active shows. And maybe it's because all the
You're
active
right.
shows are in production, and the people are working right now to make
hmm
those shows. And Hank Azaria might be the only one on an active show if he's still doing all his
Yeah, he
voices on The
is. He is. He's
Simpsons.
still on it.
Woo.
He's still on it.
Man, some of those Simpsons voice actors of late are getting rough, especially Julie Kavner. Julie Kavner, like
Oh
God bless
yeah.
that woman for still trying to do Marge, but ooh, she sounds rough.
Anyway, but so I mean, and I'm not criticizing MegaCon because it's like again, you might not
I
be
will.
able to,
And
depending on their time of year, they might not be able to get uh stars who are working on active shows because they're making those shows. I mean, there was
yeah,
nobody from Strange New Worlds that was active. The oh, I will make another correction. Somebody on a show which just wrapped showed
Skeleton
up, which was
Crew.
Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, yeah. Jude Law
Uh,
was there.
yeah, and unfortunately, I could have caught that because there was something I wanted to catch on the other side. One thing you did have to pay attention to at MegaCon is when you're looking at your schedule on your phone, make sure if it said N or S. That got me in trouble 2 times on
Oh
Sunday.
yeah.
And the thing is, there's 2 ways of crossing the divide. You either have to go through the dealer's room, which is almost like the chase scene in Blade Runner,
Yeah.
and or there's a corridor on the side of the building where you
hmm
can cross, which actually took 5 minutes. I timed it, and I'm getting up there, and I was able to get across that in 5 minutes. And you don't have to deal with the crowds, but then you have to go around to where there's an entrance to the building where they'll let you into the badge. So, and one of the things I did catch, and I want to give them a promotion because I their local Florida theater group, Phantasmagoria. Phantasmagoria is a steampunk horror theater group, and they dramatize classic horror stories and some original horror stories that they've written. Um, and they do a half an hour sample show.
Right.
And and I know some of the people, or casually know some of the people, and say hi because I've seen them. And me and my friends, we always go to their Halloween show every year. And my friends have helped me because I'm not the most Christmassy person. They go to the Christmas Carol shows that they do. So I want to give them a note of thanks. They've been doing some small shows
Hmm.
at MegaCon for the last couple of years. Sadly, on Sunday, which I could not go to because of prior commitments, I couldn't catch a horror grandmaster Al Going Back and local writer do his presentation, which was probably a reading and discussion. And I know Al. Al knows me, and we're pretty good. I'll be seeing him in March for something for an academic conference later on. So. But I did have to also make that divide for the last show I saw, which was the only creator based show that I saw at MegaCon, which was Miller and McFarlane, which was kind of interesting because they talked about the ups and downs of the comic book industry and how they dealt with it and how they were at the front row seat for a lot of those changes. And actually, it was kind of surreal. I think Todd was giving a fist bump to everybody who came into the room because I realized, oh, that's Todd giving me a fist bump. And Todd's a character. I think he's kind of mellowed in recent years because there's some things that I would read in the 90s that he did, which were um, kind of crazy. I mean, and he was pioneering independent writers, and work and so on.
First
Hmm.
Uh,
comic book I ever bought was a Todd McFarlane comic book.
yeah,
Really? Which one?
It was the first issue of his when they
Amazing
gave
Spider-Man 300? Maybe?
no
No,
I wish no, it was the
I did.
when they gave him his own Spider-Man book just called Spider-Man.
Spider-Man,
Oh,
I remember that. Oh,
I
which,
got the
how many
I got the
versions of
trade.
that were there? How many versions of there were
There were at least there's like probably 6 or 7.
I probably had all of them. I worked in a comic store back then. I got everything half
I had
off,
the
so
I had the
pretty much had
gold
everything.
well I had the gold cover second
Yeah.
thing variant. So
I
Is
actually
that worth
got
anything?
no.
I didn't think so. I didn't think so.
Well, if you
Just
got it
saying.
signed by Sean, it might. I mean, excuse me, signed by Todd.
Oh,
It
maybe.
might be. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know how much if Todd charged or how
They
much he charged for his autograph, but
just they let Todd do whatever he wanted on that Spider-Man book initially, and
Yes, that is true.
those were some pretty dark early issues of
well,
that
not necessarily.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think Todd only got the Lizard for that opening issue because all the other villains were kind of committed to other
Well,
projects.
the first five, well, the first 5 was a 5-parter with the Lizard, and
Yes.
then he did like a team up with a Ghost Rider. Then he did a team
Mhm.
up with Wolverine and Wendigo, which that
Yeah.
got there were some interesting panels that was like, man, this is getting dark.
But then again, part of that is because they really control on which Spider-Man villains you can use
Yeah.
and who you can use, and that because
But
I think
he
he
did
wanted
a
to.
great job. He did a great job with what they let him use. He did. Would he have done great on anything else? I think so. I think Todd McFarlane
art
was a
art
genius back
wise
then.
art wise I think he can't be touched. I mean, I remember
No.
he did Batman Year 2. Story wise, I think he needs some help on occasion. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
He's not
Okay.
terrible,
Yeah.
I
but
don't
I
know,
think
everyone's got their comic book artist tier list. For me, it's like, I mean, Alex Ross is in another universe, but
Alec Ross. Yeah.
for me, my go-to is always the late George Perez,
Yes. Yeah.
who I've met a couple times. I had him autograph a few Avengers books way back when,
Huh.
and I got him to autograph a few things when he visited Acme Comics and Collectibles years ago,
Mhm.
including I was the last person in line, so I had the last person in line sign. I even had him autograph that. So, but yeah, that was a big loss but because God, he just like he found a way just to put so much stuff in so much space, and
Crisis on Infinite Earths, how that shot in the monitor's space station with hundreds and hundreds of characters in the 2-page.
Mhm.
and Sean gets to see that every day and at my house.
Yes,
Oh, does he?
that is yeah, like that like if this house ever catches on fire, I'm gonna help him
That's
carry that out.
That's what you got to carry out.
Yeah, I'll be carrying my dog.
have
so-
you,
I was gonna say that would be the other.
yeah,
thing
your
you
dog
have
is
to go
way
for.
down on the list for me. I'm gonna have to carry that thing. But have you seen the animated Crisis that they did the last year
I
or
need to
so?
get back to it. I saw the first part with the Flash.
It was pretty good actually. I give credit where it's due
But
because there's a lot to juggle obviously, but it was pretty good how they
But anyway, back
got
to
together.
MegaCon. So that was the only creator inspired thing. I mean, I saw a lot. I went to the Smallville panel, which was fun, although it's kind of surreal because I've been following Rosenblum's and Tom Welling's show that they've been doing on a rewatch of their own show. And right now they're up to season 6.
Any fun stories on Allison Mack?
If you go on YouTube, the thing is, and if I remember right, Michael really didn't act a lot with Allison. They didn't at the panel. They didn't bring at the MegaCon panel. They didn't bring anything up. Michael says, "Hey, he got along with her. They were friends. They didn't really have a lot of scenes together."
She didn't try to recruit him into a cult.
They mentioned the thing that she was into. If you find there's a YouTube video where he's interviewed by somebody connected to it, he admits that she was trying to bring him into this thing, and they were like, yeah, sounds like a cult. Yeah, maybe.
So she did try to recruit him into the cult. Okay, then.
I think she also did that to Laura Vandervoot, who was, I think, the Supergirl on that show. So but they, they were kind of as shocked.
At least it sounded like a fun cult at the time.
So, but
I won't go
no,
into
they
detail.
didn't. So I don't think actually, that was the other theory that I had about why they restricted the questions. And this is something which I know Sean definitely has an opinion. I mean, this year, the elephant in the room with MegaCon, and we could get in trouble from this and maybe not get a press pass, but that's up to my
Then I'll say it. I don't care about getting a press pass.
Mel Gibson was the main guest.
Was loving this.
Mel Gibson was a big guest. He was the most expensive guest in terms of price.
$265 or something like that for an autograph or a picture.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
I'm wondering, because I'm pretty sure he did have his own segment. He had his own.
Yeah, I thought he shared it with Glover. Did he have his own?
I could be wrong.
He might have.
He might. Okay, we can't confirm that, but I'm wondering because, and also to be honest, Ron Howard, who's a great human being and a great person, unfortunately did. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Maybe that's a bit too harsh. He did a movie based on J.D. Vance's book Hillbilly Elegy. I think that's the title of it. Yikes. So I'm wondering, and the thing is, Ron is a fairly liberal guy, so he was fascinated by Vance's story, and this was done a long time ago. I think before he was even. I don't know if he was into politics at that time. So I don't know if they were doing these control questions in order to not, a nutball like myself, or say, hey, why did you stick? Oh wait, no, Hillbilly Elegy. I don't know when he became senator, but it was made in 2020.
Right.
But it's based on a J.D. Vance's book. And I think Ron said, hey, I was fascinated by the story and I did it. And even though that Ron has gone on the record that, he's very pro-Democrat. So I'm wondering if it's because of the Mel Gibson thing. They didn't want smart asses to try to troll the guests. But then they always had moderators. I mean, there was did you have the nice Scottish lady moderating the Who panel? I think her name was Claire. No, she had a C name.
Yeah, I think that was, yes. I don't remember her name, but she had the accent.
She was from Glasgow. Yes. Actually, I wish I could have bumped into her. I said, I've been to your city 3 times, which is something that I bet most Americans you met have never told you.
But Catherine had no moderator. She just went around. She was her own person. That was just an amazing thing. We have to start getting ready to wrap up the show. I wanted to bring up the Superman panel. Oh, that Superman
panel's become. Did you hear about what happened at the Superman panel?
I was there.
No, somebody covered the Superman panel. And the thing is, Dean Cain made a mistake and stood at one of the ends for the picture, and he got cut out in somebody's article.
Wow. Oh no, how terrible.
That's not that's not good.
Well, you know why? Dean Cain has had a tendency to hang out at Fox and Friends.
Yeah.
He's one of the friends at Fox and Friends, not a regular friend.
Is he really? I don't watch Fox and Friends, so I would have, and that's another thing. I have no knowledge, so I had no
So that might have
problem.
been another reason. Again, Dean Cain might, spot people who are trolling or, you get him. You don't want your guests have to defend themselves.
Mhm.
What would have happened to a nicer guy?
Well, anyway, so that was another thing. I mean, I think I found an article on one of my science fiction news feeds, which they showed
Mhm.
because they had all. So did you went to the Superman panel? I didn't go to that.
Yeah, it was really a good panel.
Did Dean say a lot? I mean, did they all get enough time to talk equally?
Yeah, yeah, they did actually. They did. They had a lot of time equally. I think Tim Daly kind of did a lot, and Welling and Kane did a lot. Brendan did a bit. I mean, yeah, they all had about equal time. They all did it.
Well,
I've
Tom's not a surprise because Tom's been
Yeah.
talking about Smallville for the last 3
Mhm.
years on his podcast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as I said, they're up to season 6.
Gotta get Jack Quaid on these panels at some point because now he's Superman.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, no, Jack. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I love that. And you know where that show came from?
Where
Toonami.
did it really?
No, it didn't.
It's they broadcast. I think season 2
No.
debuted on Toonami. The season 2 and season 1 would broadcast in the week, and then they would rerun it on Toonami.
So you're saying you wouldn't watch it if it was just on like regular Cartoon Network
I would
and not
watch it.
Toonami?
I mean,
You
but the
wouldn't
thing
watch
is,
it?
it's a coincidence that they put it on Toonami.
It's an Adult Swim show.
Adult Swim would make more sense. Yeah.
No, well, they decided.
I
but
watch it
think,
the next day on Max. That's what I do
There you go.
at my leisure.
Don't you love hearing Sarah and Tom doing their banter?
Yes.
Now, the thing is, the one thing I hated when they got rid of Adult Swim action was that I am a person who does love the bumpers that Adult Swim does. So,
Mhm.
which I only now get that when they do new seasons of Rick and Morty. I can defend Rick
You
and
could,
Morty.
yeah, go, yeah. Okay,
Not just now.
Okay, so in essence, did you enjoy MegaCon, Sean?
I was able to acquire some out of print DVDs that were going to be hard to find. So
Mhm.
in the yes.
Okay, excellent.
So
Juan,
I would say yes.
what about you, Juan?
I think it had its ups and downs. I mean, crossing on Saturday. I will say this for MegaCon. MegaCon did not have a masking policy, but I decided to wear a mask every day, and nobody gave me a hard time. I didn't hear any smart-ass comments about me wearing a mask
Yeah.
during
You mean
the convention.
Dean Cain didn't give you a hard time?
Well, I didn't go to that panel, so
Oh,
maybe
well, there you
Dean-
go. Dean Cain would have given you a hard time.
Now I see where we're going with it. So
Yeah,
let's,
so
okay.
but at this, and look, the thing is, you have crowds. I mean, unfortunately, at the last Worldcon, they didn't feel they could enforce a mask policy in Glasgow for whatever reason,
Gotcha.
but they encouraged it. And this year's Worldcon, all notices, I'm staff on this year's Worldcon. I got
Mhm.
a minor position, but it's a position nonetheless. We do encourage masking, but it is not mandatory.
Right.
So, and they will give out masks to people who want one. I
Okay.
wore a mask throughout Glasgow. Unfortunately, there were outbreaks. There were COVID outbreaks at
Yeah.
Glasgow, which thankfully I did not. I got bronchitis. I don't know if
Mhm.
that was connected or not. MegaCon, good crowd. Nobody said anything. Nobody got smart alecky with me for doing that. But I did have, look, there were good times. I actually had a fun time when I went to the press room to talk to other people who
Mhm.
were doing what we're doing right now, creating content based on MegaCon. And we had a nice space. So I got to give him credit for that, and hopefully we will get to do it again next year.
Yes.
There is one.
I'll
There
hope
is.
it.
I was going to say there is one thing I did forget to mention before I left on Friday, because after I did the DVDs, I did see a nice couple cosplaying Seymour and Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors, and even the guy who was Seymour, he had a little tiny little Audrey 2 plant. And I was at MegaCon, and I said, I can't help myself. So I went up to them and I said, "What a strange and interesting plant you have there." As the I preface it, I apologize for being the 50th person to do this to you, more than likely, and they both laughed. And
I
so
will say
it's
one
like,
thing. I will say one thing I did bring up because I was kind of surprised because Sean says it's a big show. I didn't realize it was a big show. I was surprised to see
What?
one Mashal cosplay while I was walking through the hordes at MegaCon. I only saw one.
Well,
Uh,
Mashal is a big show, yes. I don't know how many people are cosplaying Mashal, but Yeah, it's like, I mean, you actually know what Mashal is because they started showing it on Toonami.
They were
Which
able to get it. I don't know if they got season 2
I mean,
yet.
you wouldn't be watching it if it wasn't on Toonami, which I've already watched it. I actually own the Blu-ray sets for both seasons
Hey, I will
already.
follow
So.
a show that is recommended by either the AAA podcast or anime, our friends at Anime
Well, you
Bulletin
watch a
Order.
show that you research on your own and not have someone tell you to watch it.
They are suffering for me by watching bad isekai shows.
But will you on your own research things and say, that sounds interesting? I don't need anyone else to tell me to watch it. It's
Well,
okay if someone recommends something, but
anyway, so we got back to talk to anime. I mean, Mark, what were the panels that you saw on your own? I'm trying to remember because so you saw the Superman panel on
I
your
did.
own.
Okay. I did the Superman one. I did the Doctor Who panels. I did Hank Azaria. And so yeah, I saw those panels, and that was about it. I mean, I had a great time. I had a great
Yeah,
time.
I also saw.
However, it was hard work, in terms of it takes a lot out of you. I mean,
Well, I
it
think
takes a lot out of
unfortunately
you.
MegaCon doesn't do what some conventions do because I could be wrong and correct me if I'm wrong. I think San Diego does cut off the membership.
Hmm.
I know Gallifrey One does. Uh, Worldcon has considered it, particularly in Europe, but it. So I don't know if keeping it at like a comfortable number, because part of the problem is getting around everywhere where you're with 100,000, over 100,000 of your closest friends.
Hmm.
He said sarcastically if you didn't get
yeah,
that.
well,
So,
yeah, Comic-Con San Diego sells out within like minutes. So
Yeah,
so
that's what I
they do
hear.
sell out membership. So
I
But okay, and this is the last thing we were talking about. This I want to end on this. The amount of people that were there, do you think it was a lot in terms of what it could have been? Because Saturday seemed not to be as full as I thought it was going to be, and I think as far as they thought it,
did you see the
I was
picture that I
able.
put on
Yes,
Facebook
I did.
from the
However,
window?
I got from south to north in the scooter in so little time on Saturday, less than it was. I was thinking I'm never gonna move. I'm gonna be stuck. I went through it quickly. I mean, it still took 15 minutes, but it wasn't a half hour like I thought it would.
I think the building is just that big
You
at
think
this
it's just that
point.
big?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to sell merchandise at MegaCon for a number of years. I guess there are more people. I guess. I don't know.
I mean,
It
there
just,
was you can't, you cannot wave your arm and not hit somebody in the dealer's room when you get
yeah,
in there.
yeah,
And the thing is, you got to keep, if you don't keep moving, you're probably blocking somebody.
that is true. That
And
is true.
you got to keep moving, and maybe as somebody who's on a scooter, people make way for you. And they did have a lot of scooters this year because I think
Oh yeah.
on Thursday I saw them line up all the scooters that you would get from the con
Hmm.
itself, lined up
Yeah.
in the big room that you go into
Yes.
before to get your tickets. So
There were a
um,
lot. There were
there
a lot.
there were a lot, and so it's good that you're considering that. Worldcon, who has an older, demographic,
Hmm.
always had, I mean, had scooters since I think before it was cool to have scooters
Yeah.
available for, that's just a fact. So it's progressing. I mean, it's different, and I'm not sure if it's the biggest convention because you got to think about
In
Pensacon,
Florida, supposedly it is.
Pensacon
It's
in the
been
north,
announced.
and I forget who
Pensacon,
owns
yeah.
Pensacon, and whoever is running SuperCon, I don't know what their numbers. I haven't been to a SuperCon in a while.
Yeah. Well, as far as I know, they were touting themselves, and it's possible. It's a big convention center. Again, I'm not sure how many people were there, but it looked like there was a very more than decent size. All right, we're gonna stop here, guys. I hope everyone listening, enjoyed our show. Of course, the show, as you know, is always called the Juan and Sean Double Acts. It's our favorite show that we do. No, uh, no, Sean, thank you for coming on.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, great. You can come on anytime you want, as long as Juan allows it.
I could do a surprise appearance like I went to the panels, you see?
You could come in like Arthur Darvill.
So
Yeah, that would be
you could
great.
send me a link through email instead of Juan writing it down and
I
handing it
write
to
down
me.
the numbers because that's what I don't use the link. I punch in the numbers on Zoom.
Okay. So on behalf of myself, Juan Sanmiguel and Sean Forster,
Yes.
it's MarkWHO42’s Universe. We'll be back next week with an Oscars show to get you ready for the Oscars. And oh, I forgot, supporting actor Kieran Culkin and supporting actress Zoe Saldana on the Baptist. On that note, bye everyone.
Bye.
You've been listening to MarkWHO42’s Universe. Hosting the show are Mark Baumgarten, Vicky Jakubowski, and Juan Sanmiguel. If you'd like to leave a comment for us, please email us at MarkWHO42.42@gmail.com. MarkWHO42’s Universe is produced and directed by Mark Baumgarten. Copyright 2025.